It will be mad. So it will be mad to let the Palestinians out of Gaza because they're going to fucking run like crazy motherfuckers, stabbing people left and right. Are you Israeli?
I mean, what do you think happened when Hamas pushed the fucking... What do you think happened when Hamas pushed the fence down on October 7th? What do you think... What happened when Gaza had free reign over Israel over parts of Israel, a small part of Israel, for what, like 8 hours? Yeah, that's pretty much what happened, Bob.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. Drinking people's blood and Most Israelis feel that way. They're all terrified of Palestinians. They think that as soon as a Palestinian is going to come face to face with an Israeli, they're going to fucking attack him and bite his face off, which they have every right to if they wanted to because of what you've fucking done to them, but they're not going to do that.
Okay, so we just endorsed the murder of civilians? How many did Hezbollah murder in Syria? Well, it's only estimates, but I think about 500,000 people have died in Syria since 2011. Between 200,000 and 300,000 of them are civilians. I think the estimates are that at least about 80% of those civilian deaths are attributable to Assad and his accomplices and his allies, one of which is Hezbollah. One of the main allies is Hezbollah. They were the ones who actually took Assad's army and made it viable. They could have lost without Hezbollah. That's more people than have died in the entire Israel-Arab conflict for the last 100 years. Don't have an issue with them, though. And if you're Israeli and you see that, you're probably going to be like, well, why us? Why do you hate us? Why are we so special? Watch this little gup. What is this?
Interviewed Lonerbox on his podcast saying, I want to offer alternatives to Hasan. He's a super smart guy who's very knowledgeable.
Hey, this is what I said. He's going to do the thing. There's the fake laugh. Okay.
I mean, good.
Maybe the tanky cackle. Maybe the summarize my positions in the most inaccurate, bad faith way possible. He's got 2 minutes. Lock in. Go, Hasan. Do the process.
Great.
Trust you. He's going to do it. We're going to get the frat boy giggle? Or is it the bad faith mischaracterization?
I hate Hasan. It's time for Temu Hasan.
Okay.
Let's have a guy who at least is like somewhat critical of Israel, but still ultimately believes in many of the things that Israel is doing as like kind of righteous.
Like which things? Which things? Yeah, I don't like it when they allow their soldiers to get away with war crimes. I don't like it when the government does war crimes, like the blockage. But I do think it's probably okay to go after terrorist organizations that are trying to destroy you. Okay. Wait, this is actually, wait, what the fuck? He's gonna say something. That's fairly honest of Hasan. That's surprising to me. Let's go.
But hey, he's like he's critical of the Benjamin Netanyahu administration,
Yeah.
So this is the right kind of opinion to have in terms of being pro-Palestine, and the wrong kind of people,
are the ones who support random fucking rocket barrages that do fuck all and kidnapping civilians from a boat that's going from Turkey to India and holding them hostage for a year. Yeah? Okay.
Kind of people are the people like Hasan who are just too radical and irrational. They're actually harming the cause.
And stupid and uninformed and surprisingly tolerant of some of the biggest Arab killers in the region, Hezbollah and the Houthis. Okay.
This is just a way for...
To be fair, you know what? Hats off. Hasan, I love Hasan, okay? His admirable charitability. This is actually an honest position from Hasan. He is basically admitting there, in his own little way, that that I failed his purity test. That's why he doesn't like my positions. That's it. That's the honest position. It's not because I'm saying anything immoral or fucking egregiously immoral. It's not that I'm doing any of that, right? It's just that I failed the purity test.
Ethan to channel Destiny without actually openly platforming him because he's so scared. Just put Destiny on, little bro. Just put him on. That's it. He's just so terrified because of one, the metric ton of horseshit that Destiny has said about him. And two, he's worried that like the remainder of his audience is going to be like, oh man, yeah, what the fuck? This is a bridge too far for me. Don't worry. You've already massaged the narrative enough that your subreddit is like completely fucking captive, completely captured by the brigade.
Swallow food, Hasan. Holy shit. How do you say the word Temu? Is it Temu? Why is this Timu? I thought Hasan said Temu. I was very confused. Why is this Timu Cenk, this Ottoman colonizer? Why is he so salty about? First of all, how can you be so delusional about this idea that the narrative is being massaged? Ethan reacts to Hasan's content and addresses, and then Ethan will put out a video, and then Hasan will hear about a mangled summary of that video in his chat and laugh at it, and then say that, oh, he's so far gone, must be destiny, and then move on.
Haters. It's turned into a fucking snark subreddit for me, just like r/destiny is. You know, Mr. The IDF doesn't target children.
Oh, because he only saw the first half of the. Oh, there's the laugh as well. Interesting. This whole this thing that he's saying here, by the way, is based on like a clip of me giving like half of a perspective, where I basically argued that someone was trying to say something about kids being sniped in the head. And it's like there's loads of kids with like perfect sniper shots in the head. And I argued basically that in urban warfare, people who are fighting, not necessarily using snipers, but people like marksmen or people with like semi-automatics, like because they use the same ammunition. And I basically said that in urban warfare, people make a shitload of mistakes. Okay, you can't like not everything is intentional. Not every single death is intentional. And then that was the first half of what I said. And then I guess like Hasan just didn't see the second half of what I said because it was clipped dishonestly. And the second half of what I said was that you're also going to get a situation where the IDF soldiers who are pretty hateful, are pretty jumpy, are pretty willing to cut corners, whatever reason they do it, are going to commit war crimes, and they're going to get away with it. That was it. Like. But just seeing people with bullets in their heads or their chests in an urban war isn't going to tell you about whether or not that was like a deliberate assassination or if they were just like targeted in a kind of like in a jump in like in a kind of like spraying frenzy or whatever, or if someone got hit through a wall, or if there was an accident, or if someone was breaking the rules, or if someone was ordered to break the rules. It doesn't tell you enough about that. It doesn't give you enough information. That's all I think even in that clip, in that stream, I even said that this was a systemic issue of the idea of cutting corners and doing this and breaking rules and murdering people. Like I even said that, but you know. He doesn't know that though, because Hasan never goes to the original source. He just gets other people to tell him things.
It's cool, man. It is what it is.
Yeah.
We'll talk about how devastating it is that I am a terrorist supporter, and how I've turned a blind eye to anti-Semitism, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. It's not really that he turns a blind eye to it. It's more that he just sees it and excuses it or doesn't think it's a big deal. But yeah, those are actually bad things, Mr. Monsieur Picard. All right. He sounds kind of deflated there. I don't know. Apparently, Hasan posted a TikTok about me. Or he reposted a TikTok. He did! Fucking Hasan reposted this. This.
Radical anti-Semitic extremist because he dares to humanize the Palestinian people.
That's exactly what happens. That's all he does. That's the only thing that he does, and that's why people call him anti-Semitic. Yeah. That's why people call him an extremist. By the way, I don't think Hasan is anti-Semitic. I've never said that. I've said that he enables anti-Semitism. So if you're a leftist, that makes you anti-Semite. Like enabling something makes you the thing. So, but I tend to differentiate. But okay, why do people do this? Why can't people ever just be honest about what's happening? It's so stupid. All right.
Their politics, and also because he criticizes Israel in a way that is consistent with the ICC, ICJ, the Pope, Human Rights Watch.
People misquote these organizations all the time. How long did people say that the ICJ said there's a plausible genocide, and then the fucking president had to come out who read out the verdict, the provisional measures, to clarify that's not what she meant. Anyway.
Amnesty, and so many other internationally respected human rights organizations. But the streamers, Lonerbox and Destiny, are consistently held up as more reasonable people who deal with Palestine and Israel in a much more balanced way. But they are with a literal Israeli government propagandist, Elon Levy, a man who was paid by the Israeli government and Benjamin Netanyahu's office to go on British and Western...
Does this guy even know what was said in this interview? Or is it just if you talk to these people, that's a problem? The thing is that even if you... Let's say you watch the interview of me with this guy, right? If you watched this interview with me with Elon Levy, you'd probably think I was being like quite soft on him. That wasn't my purpose of going to Israel. I was soft on everyone. My rule was, if I don't agree with something, I'm going to push back, let them respond, maybe give one more pushback if I feel like it's really obvious. And then that's it. Just move on. And usually just like let them say things, because what the plan was that I want to take this, because there's so much footage, if I want to make a documentary or make a particular video about one specific issue, whether it's settlers or propaganda or about Hamas or Gaza or anything else, then I want to get like a few key sections, and then I want to voice over, and if someone is like lying to me or saying this or that, I'm probably going to voice over and correct it, like, or to say why I think this is wrong. Like, that's basically been my purpose for this. But these guys don't give the slightest shit about any of that. It's just, oh, you took a picture. You're in a picture with a guy. Where's the one? Oh yeah. Hasan Piker fancies himself as an ally of the transgender people. Why then is he here laughing with transphobic propagandist Christian Walker? But in a debate also where Hasan got absolutely fucking annihilated, by the way, where he made such a fool out of himself and then got called out by a trans person afterwards and told him that he wanted his life to be fucking miserable forever. Some like trans boy or something. Yeah, like, come on. Come on.
Media so as to lie for the Israeli government and to justify the continual slaughter of Palestinian people. And then, of course, I'm sure as many of you will know, one of the key figures crusading against Hasan...
we're going to get critique. Okay, we're going to play a clip. Let's go. Come on.
Has been his former co-host Ethan Klein. And just watch Lonerbox yesterday, the man who was brought on by Ethan to give reasonable opinions about Palestine.
Okay.
You can get in. I think the American government, I don't know if you know, recently there was like a measure that was taken in October for 2 weeks where Israel basically, the IDF, I think without getting approval from Central Command, basically decided that they were going to surround the north of Gaza, and to do that operation they weren't going to let anything in. Okay, so they did that for about 2 weeks, and then I think that was when Kamala Harris came out and said, okay, you've got 30 days.
This is me describing a crime. Okay. This is like one of probably the most easily verified and most egregious crime of the war, by the way, just choosing to take a certain area where there were 400,000 people, where you knew not every civilian had evacuated, and chose to choke it off. When they were short on aid anyway, but okay.
This. Otherwise, we're going to reconsider selling arms to Israel. We're going to reconsider our position on aid. And that's a pretty unprecedented thing for America to do. America doesn't talk about reconsidering arms to Israel very often. And then on the very next day, KOGAT, the Israeli aid distributor agency, basically posted a bunch of videos saying, look, there's a bunch of trucks going into North Gaza. We all have trucks going in. So I think getting government pressure to Israel actually does go a long way. I think
people like this are willing to say and do absolutely anything to justify Israel's crimes.
Oh, he's upset. He's upset that I said it didn't have approval from the general staff. Why is he talking in all caps? Okay. Maybe?
Look at the way he tries to claim, oh, it wasn't actually the Israeli government who decided to siege and starve northern Gaza, as if...
Okay, wait, hang on. So this is from Haaretz. This is where the confirmation that this was happening came from. 3 reserve soldiers in Gaza who spoke separately with Haaretz's Bar Peleg this week told him that it is their impression that the general's plan is being implemented in practice, even if the general staff and Southern Command haven't officially adopted it. Yeah, this is an example of the IDF doing a thing, even if it seems that their superiors, the general staff and Southern Command, Did I say Central Command? It should have been Southern. Anyway, haven't necessarily signed off on it. That doesn't stop it from being a crime. That doesn't stop people from being accountable. Okay. This guy, man. Mate. Bub, where are you? What's your fucking problem, man? What's wrong with you?
If Netanyahu and the others at the top don't know what's going on, and it's just being carried out by a few rogue commanders. And when you listen to what he's saying about how Israel...
How is that justifying it, if that's what happened? We don't know, mate. You don't know if Netanyahu knew that this was happening or not. Would I put it past him that he knew? Not really. I'm just reporting the facts, buddy. Like what? Hey, didn't I? This is also the same podcast where this whiny little fucking bedwetter just ignored the fact that I said that Netanyahu was actually arguing with the Americans because they wanted him to resume aid into Gaza after October 7th sooner than he wanted to. They wanted the Israelis to resume aid into Gaza as soon as the breaches in the border were fixed. And Netanyahu was like, nah. And I said that. Why do people lie? They don't care. They don't know, they don't care. This guy has no idea what the chain of command was, in particular for this measure in the north in October. He has no idea. He just big mad.
Aid and that US government pressure worked. No, it didn't. Israel did not meet the deadlines that the US government set. And when you listen to what he's saying about how Israel approved aid and that US government pressure worked. No, it didn't. Israel did not meet the
Real voice. The American line at the end, which I said verbatim, was they said that Israel had not met every demand, but they had done enough so as to get rid of so as to not reconsider the arms purchase. That was it. That's what they said. That's what they said. Two can be true at once. If you disagree with America, that's fine. You guys would agree with America on US aid whenever they say something that suits you. The verdict from America was that they had done enough of a change, but they hadn't met every demand.
Deadlines that the US government set. And what you should be focusing on in this conversation are the actual aid organizations who are saying that almost no aid is reaching northern Gaza, and that last week Israel denied 82 out of 91 attempts to bring aid to that area. But of course, for Lonabox, he needs to tell you the Israeli government narrative.
Why is he saying? I thought wait, is he talking about, hang on. I don't know why you would talk about trusted aid organizations, then go with, when we're talking about denying aid deliveries, this is the thing I don't get, is that people keep saying, there's a stat that keeps going around, which is 80 to 90% of aid attempts into Gaza is not being allowed. Even though, obviously, the disputed figure there is that Kogat, who is the Israeli body, who obviously no one trusts, will say that it's like 1.3 or 1.4% of aid trucks are being blocked. There's a bit of a discrepancy there, 1.3% versus 80 or 90. How do you solve that? Well, first of all, I don't understand how the 80 to 90 number would make sense. I don't even know, like, it comes from, there was one Norwegian aid organization. Someone was asking me yesterday about a study that I mentioned on humanitarian aid. It was this one. And people were asking why I'm just going to give you an example of why I think when people make a comment, like a very extreme comment about the aid situation in Gaza, and they'll cite humanitarian organization data, there's a reason I don't really always take it at face value. And here's just one that I mentioned. The Norwegian study that I mentioned was this one. It said, it's from September, it said that the Israel siege now blocks 83% of food aid reaching Gaza, new data reveals. And before looking through their methodology, which took a minute to find, they say here, you can already see there's a bit of an issue with what they're saying, because they say here, a record low average of 69 aid trucks per day entered Gaza in August 2024 compared to 500 per working day last year. They're already using the 500 trucks claim, and it's been almost a year of people doing this, and people are still doing it. This 500 trucks thing, by the way, this is like a huge red flag when people talk about pre-war aid, because it's not true. It's not accurate. So when they compare 69 aid trucks, which is all food, and I think maybe a couple of things that have essential supplies like medical stuff, comparing this number to 500 is just dishonest. So if you look here, this is the month of August 2023, just before October 7th, and 500 trucks is wrong for a few reasons. One is it's not per day, it's per working day, because there were 2, sometimes 3 days of the week in pre-war when there just was no aid at all. It would just be like weekends plus maybe sometimes an extra day when there wouldn't be any trucks going in. So if you actually average it out, it was more like 300, 350. And that is also not to mention that it includes other things. It includes things like construction materials and more construction materials and industrial and electrical applications. So obviously all these things after October 7th stopped going into Gaza. Food, however, didn't, at least not entirely. So if you wanted to compare pre-war to now, you would compare food trucks, human food products. So you look here, you've got 2,657. So that's the entire month of August. And if you went by what I said in October, November, this was pretty drastically reduced because of the damage to the fence and the crossings, but also because of the decisions of Netanyahu and Gallant. So if you go to October, you get quite a low number, 789. And then after some intervention from Biden and also from the border being fixed up and deals being made with aid organizations and agreements being made with Egypt and everyone else, you go up to 1,700. Okay, so still not great. And I think by the time you reach December, you're at 2,200. And then when you go into 2024, January, you're back up to more than pre-war levels, 2,900, 2,000, and then 3,799. And that doesn't even mention the issue of aid not being so much a problem of whether or not Israel allows it into Gaza, but whether or not there are enough aid organizations and there's enough safety for people to start distributing it in certain areas. Yeah, this was after the pier, 3,799. And also, this isn't to mention that this is like in wartime. So I think food type changed as well. Obviously, you're going to think about like, how do you get the most calories per truck in during a war as opposed to before the war where you can let all kinds of like nonsense in, right? So that's why I'm a little bit iffy about seeing organizations like this that come out with their stats and their data on aid, but then you're already saying 500 trucks per day to compare to 69. And even when you go into the methodology of this study, they even say that they admit in their methodology that for food trucks, the average pre-war was about 75 by their data. I think they used the month of June or something before the war. But then the record low is 69. So obviously the discrepancy has been made to look so much wider by this 500 trucks number. And I'm like, you're only using 500 trucks as a number for propaganda purposes. That's the only purpose it fills, is its propaganda. So doesn't mean the situation's good, doesn't mean people aren't suffering, doesn't mean there's not malnutrition, doesn't mean people haven't died from malnutrition or other related diseases. But it does mean that saying 83% of aid is getting blocked is a slightly dubious claim. Anyway, okay. If Israel was giving like an average to all of Gaza, I think something between something like 70, 80 to 120, 130 trucks. If you're saying that they need 500 trucks, but also 70, 80, 90 trucks a day is denying 80 to 90%, then are they saying that the appropriate number of trucks should actually be like 7, 8, 900?
Out of 91 attempts to bring aid to that area.
He's talking to North Gaza, which I commented on. I don't know if this moron notices that I mentioned North Gaza, right? Okay.
Of course, for Lonabox, he needs to tell you the Israeli government narrative because he's balanced and two-sided. And if you ever wonder why I'm so dismissive of liberal Zionists and people who say, oh, why can't you give the Israeli side? This is the Israeli side. It's just lies to justify the extermination of Palestinian people, or in times where they're not waging a brutal assault on Gaza, it is done to justify keeping Palestinians under an apartheid regime and taking their land constantly.
That's definitely from the same podcast where I said that people who try to take Palestinian land should get shot. Why are they such... They don't care. These people don't give a fuck. They don't know. They don't care.
I, on the other hand, believe that Palestinians deserve dignity and the right to live in the land that they have continually been marginalised in and ethnically cleansed from by the Zionist project. And of course, that means that people like me and Hasan are radical extremists. Hasan
I don't know if this guy's an extremist. You have to know like 5 things about the conflict to be a radical extremist. Okay. So that's TikTok. And that's, I guess, pushback and discourse that Hasan appreciates. Because I guess Hasan can't really push back on anything by himself because he needs like Again, he's a 45 IQ commentator who needs 50 IQ commentators to make these debunks for him. Okay. Well, keep on chugging, buddy. Then just go on CNN and Pod Save America and keep all your cards to your chest because you're a spineless fuck who just wants to be a celebrity. Or maybe I'm wrong. Did he? Did he tell CNN and Pod Save America? I didn't watch the entirety of each one. Was there a moment in there that I missed when he was actually like, yeah, I'll defend the Houthis. Yeah, I'll defend Hezbollah. Yeah, I think Nasrallah's a brilliant man. I don't know if anyone caught it, but when I talk about the IDF being able to block aid from a particular area for 2 weeks without approval, I don't know if that, maybe I need to be clearer because no one knows anything, but maybe I need to be clearer that that actually is an indication of a pretty untenable situation. Like you shouldn't be able to do something like that, to breach a boundary like that for so long without anyone noticing or calling it off.
That represents the Shia community of Lebanon. It started out.
Watch Loner Box? I'm okay. But for anyone who thinks I'm a self-hating Arab or anything like that, y'all can watch him. And then come back to me and then tell me how much you hate me.
Out as a social service organization, actually an ambulance corps.
You called Loner Box a genocide supporter? Yeah, I mean, like that's basically how it goes. Yeah, you're either with them 100% or you're against 100%. Yeah.
Oh, he made a fucking podcast episode about me, this fucking dipshit. Soy. What's he doing here? Oh, he's got the whole gang over. What the fuck? Okay, so these guys are... This is some podcast by a guy that's been fighting with me on Twitter. And apparently he wants to challenge some of my claims on Gaza. We'll see.
Just pissed me off. This guy's really pissing me off.
He's really annoying. And this clip right here, Ethan kind of just shows you how scared he is of Palestinians mixing with Israelis because he thinks that Palestinians are just going to run around murdering Israelis. Oh.
I hate this allegation. It's like, I'm sorry, bro. Do you think Jews... it's so stupid. I can understand when people say, oh, like South Africans who are white are worried about equality, like what, anti-white racism, because that's like a really deeply embedded fear in society that there's like that not only is South Africa riddled with anti-white racism, but also the entire region around them. And as soon as they get equal rights, they're just all going to die. That's obviously stupid. But we're not talking about like we're talking about Jews, okay? And again, most of these Jews are not even white. So we're talking about Jews who are mostly refugees. Again, these are Israel. People forget this. Israel's a nation of refugees, not just the Holocaust survivors or the people who fled the pogroms of Russia. It's the people who fled the Middle East and North Africa. That's the majority of Israeli Jews. All these countries, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Libya, Morocco, Yemen, these all had sizable Jewish populations. They don't anymore. Because they were pushed out by pogroms, by anti-Semitism, by the Arab and Muslim world. So this guy is like, it's so naive to just suggest that the Palestinians are going to be the first group in the last 100 years in the Middle East and North Africa that is going to treat their Jewish minority well. Even though when you consider it's Palestinians, like they're the group that probably has more of an excuse to be anti-Semitic than any other group. And you think this is how that's going to work? You think that this is going to be the first time in like living memory that it's okay to be a Jewish minority in a Middle Eastern country? It's so naive.
Oh shit, they're let loose.
But again, I feel like this guy should know this because he's Lebanese. He's lived in Lebanon. He knows what happened to Jews in Lebanon. He knows that a lot of them are now Northern Israeli. They're Israelis because their families were murdered, or because they were scared, or because they were getting beaten up, or because they were discriminated against, or because they were second-class citizens. Like and now there are 20 Jews left in Lebanon? But again, this is why it's like it's the indirect anti-Semitism. It's just the differences between Jews and other groups, like white people or whatever. It doesn't register. So we'll just treat this like the same way you would treat white South Africans who are worried about anti-white racism. It's so dumb.
They're running amok.
Let everybody in Gaza and the West Bank have free reign to go into Israel and basically just, fully integrated from one day, lights are on, the borders are gone, full integration. Pragmatically, that seems like a total disaster. I mean, that would be like, all the governing bodies in those areas are pretty much dedicated to violence against Israelis. And it would It'd be crazy, right? I mean, it would be fucking mad to do that. Seems to me.
Well,
It will be mad. So it will be mad to let the Palestinians out of Gaza because they're going to fucking run like crazy motherfuckers, stabbing people left and right. Are you Israeli? Fuck
I mean, what do you think happened when Hamas pushed the fucking... What do you think happened when Hamas pushed the fence down? On October 7th, what do you think? What happened when Gaza had free reign over Israel over parts of Israel, a small part of Israel, for what, like 8 hours? Yeah, that's pretty much what happened, Bob. Yeah. I'm not saying it's going to be like that forever. I'm not saying Palestinians are stuck in this way for the rest of eternity. But given that they need statehood now, it's probably going to be a state that's going to be separate from Israel.
crazy, 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 drinking people's blood and shit. So this is, and most
Oh,
Israelis
the reverse blood libel. Nice one.
feel that way. Most Israelis feel that way. They're all terrified of Palestinians. They think that as soon as a Palestinian is going to come face to face with an Israeli, they're going to fucking attack him and bite his face off, which they have every right to if they wanted to because of what the shit you fucking done to them, but they're not going to do that.
Okay, so we just endorsed the murder of civilians. About 6 million of them, actually. Like half the world's Jews. Bit over 6 million. Okay, we just endorsed the murder of 6 million Jews on youtube.com. Hey, let's go.
Or most of them aren't. Some might. There's going to be some growing pains in a one-state solution in the beginning, and some may be fucking difficult.
Why are they pretending like Israelis aren't the one who open carry automatic rifles when they go to the fucking grocery store? You're the fucking murderous obsessives, by the way, not us.
So I think the problem is like, I think people are just very disproportionate with the ways that they make complaints. And then when you get disproportionate and when you exaggerate or when you throw in false things, then you don't really know where the solutions are. So for the last year or so, when people have been saying there's an inevitable famine, you know, and like a famine is like you've got thousands of people dying of starvation like every other week. And obviously that didn't happen. But okay, true. We've been saying there's an inevitable famine, you know, and like a famine is like you've got thousands of people dying of starvation like every other week, and obviously that didn't happen. But it means that people
exposed.
kind of okay, we're going to see the strong evidence that I'm wrong about famine. Okay.
First clip right here. Now, some of these are out of order because some of the clips I got off of Reddit.
Wait, did they just play? Is this the world you live in right now? You can just play the clip and not push back because this is how primed everyone is, right? Just so you guys know, okay? The definition of famine, okay? IPC Phase 5, a famine, this is the international standard, is, among other things, 2 to 4 deaths per 10,000 every day. That's a famine, okay? So if you do the maths on that, 2 over 10,000, even by, say, a quarter of Gaza, 500, yeah, you're well over like 1,000 in 2 weeks. If it's the whole of Gaza, yeah, you are thousands of deaths from either starvation or the interaction of malnutrition and disease every couple of weeks. Doesn't mean there's not problems. Doesn't mean there's not malnutrition and other kinds of ailments that do actually basically ruin people's lives. Doesn't mean there's not massive problems. But people try to invoke the language of famine. They try to invoke the language of what's happening somewhere like Sudan, in like Zamzam, where you had a famine declared, I think, in August. They didn't get any aid until just this month, like a week ago, November. And when you do that, when you decide that every single thing that happens that is bad for Jews, that is bad like in the world that's being done by Jews, as soon as it's being done by Jews, you need to exaggerate the shit out of it for some reason. Well, maybe you're not coming at it from an anti-Semitic place, but that behavior, if Jews see that, are going to think, wait, why? Why us? Why are we so special? Like, and so we got one more Ottoman simp in the chat. Jews and Muslims lived in peace in the Ottoman Empire. Okay, a couple of things. The Ottoman Empire was quite a while ago. Second of all, yeah, the Ottoman Empire functioned with Jews so long as they were a scattered, small, defenseless, apolitical, basically, minority. A group that didn't really have national aspirations, a group that didn't really have all that much strength, a group that at times couldn't even bring charges against Muslims criminally, that had to go through a second-class citizenship system. But yeah, they didn't get the European treatment. They had a little bit of calm here and there. Meanwhile, Israel commits apartheid even on the Palestinians who live in Israel. Like, come on. Come on.
Some I got myself by watching the episode. So it might be a bit out of order, but it should make sense. So here's AB defending Arabs. And it was just nice to hear AB.
Oh, there's not even pushback on the famine, is there? He just completely missed that out. Okay, cool. What a waste. Sorry, this guy, by the way. This guy's got like a reasonable following on his podcast. Not bad, not bad. Seen worse. This guy has just been in my replies, basically justifying Hezbollah attacking Arab communities and Druze and other Jewish communities, civilian, in the north of Israel, for a very interesting reason. I asked him to tell me anything I said that was wrong about Hezbollah and Lebanon. He didn't. I asked him how Hezbollah's actions were supposed to help Gaza, because it seems like it was a bad idea now that we've got a bit of hindsight. And this rationale, which is not uncommon, by the way, there's no military victory against Israel, just like there can be no military victory against Hamas. The idea is to destabilize and make the Zionist regime and apartheid state untenable, destabilize the economy, make the entire project unsustainable. If you've done your research, sorry, I should say that more in the appropriate tone. If you've done your research, you would know that Israel's economy is in the toilet. Most dual citizens have left, small businesses closing at record numbers, state becoming more of a pariah, but yeah, you're right, Hezb accomplished nothing. And the Hezb issue in Lebanon is very complicated, not black and white. People have mixed feelings towards them. Some love him, some hate him. We're not a monolith. Hearing you talk about it is clear you know nothing about Lebanon. Again, I've never said Hezbollah's history is not complicated, okay? I've spoken many, many times about the Shiite minority and why it made perfect sense for them to fall in line with a group like Hezbollah. It makes perfect sense. It's a lie that most dual citizens have left? Sure. That's not the point, though. It's the idea that they're still stuck on this absolute delusion. And unfortunately, even the PLO did this in the 60s, when they more or less modeled themselves on the Algerian movement against the French. The idea was to use violence and terror and whatever else to push the occupiers to leave, to make the system unsustainable. Now, for the Algerians, that worked because the French had somewhere to go, somewhere that wasn't even that far away, because it's called France. Okay, they could go to France. Israel is a country of refugees. Its population is made up in large numbers of either Holocaust survivors, people who fled pogroms, people who, after the Holocaust, who did survive, were kept into reopened concentration camps like Dachau, Bergen-Belsen. These camps were reopened by the Allies because they had nowhere else to put the Jews. Every other country had closed their doors to the Jews for the entirety of the war and before. They closed their doors, and the Jews had one place to go throughout that war. A lot of them only had one place to go, and that was Palestine, Israel. And then after Israel's founded, anti-Semitism in the rest of the Middle East and North Africa gets worse because, that's when you blame local Jews in the Middle East and North Africa for something that other Jews did from a different part of the world that you've never met. You get blamed for it. You face pogroms, you face state sanctions, you face second-class citizenship, abuse, and then they flee as well. They go to Israel, and they make up most of Israel's Jewish population. So the difference is that you're not dislodging these people. They're not going anywhere. They're never going anywhere. They're there to stay. The only people you're getting rid of are likely the people who are going to be more liberal leaning, right? The ones who have connections to Europe and America, right? Those are the people that are leaving. The people that are staying are the right wingers, the Mizrahi population, the ones who are more hawkish, the ones who actually hate the Arabs the most. The ones who are probably less respecting of rules of engagement and international law and warfare and everything. Those are the people who are staying, and they're never leaving. So it's incredibly naive. And at the end of the day, I just wonder how many failures, how many failed wars this has to take for people like this to realize that this is not the answer. It's not. You're not forcing them to leave. And if they stay, sorry, you are not forcing, in the year of 2024, millions of Jews to accept living as a minority, which they would in a one-state solution. They would live as a minority. They'd quickly become a minority, especially if you have any respect for right of return. They become a minority in a time when minorities all over the Middle East are getting railed, are getting absolutely smashed. And most of those minorities have the privilege of not being Jews. And they also have the privilege of not being Jews who have had the upper hand for 75 years. So it's a little bit of a tricky situation there. And the problem is you're just going to keep on throwing Arab lives at this wall indefinitely because this is never going to reach the solution that you want. But I guess it's easy for these like America-based podcasters to talk like this because I guess it's not their lives. They're not the ones who pay the price. How after everything that's happened in Lebanon, after the pagers, after the walkie-talkies, after the bombings, after Nasrallah's house, after the villages with the tunnel networks underneath them razed to the ground, after all that, you're like, yeah, well, excuse me. Have you seen how Israel's doing? Huh? You seen how Israel's doing? Their GDP's down. Dual citizens are leaving. By the way, also a bunch of people from the West with connections to Israel have moved to Israel since October 7th because they felt alienated because of hate crimes, because they felt socially ostracized during the war, because of all the social like outrage that's been happening since the beginning of October 7th. Never mind that. But yeah, don't worry, bro. We got the GDP down. We got some more UN resolutions. A few more. Got an ICJ case that's not going to be done for 5 years. Again, there's a really good quote from a Shiite critic. Her name is Mona Fayed, and she wrote this right at the end of the 2006 war. She basically said, to be a Shiite means to incapacitate your mind and leave it to Sayyid Khamenei and guide you and to decide for you what he wants for arms to Hezbollah, and he imposes on you the meaning of a victory that has little difference from suicide. I mean, that's basically, that's the trend that's carried on here, right? This guy is basically trying to sell a victory that looks kind of just like a suicide. But you're right, has accomplished nothing. Okay. Bit of copium. Bit of a dipshit. Bit of a cunt. Oh well. But it's okay, you know, maybe you'll do another 1 hour 50 show that involves me. Maybe you'll bring up sources next time. Maybe you'll actually debunk one of the claims. Okay, good luck, buddy. Good luck, son. They don't get that the Israeli mentality largely is also where we have nowhere else to go. We either survive here or we won't last anywhere. I think that was more or less what I said, but okay. This guy is legit unwell. He's not even denying it. This fucking moron literally supported Hezbollah's actions in Israel. You realize that those actions involved rockets that can't aim on civilian communities that are largely Arab. Fuck. Okay, whatever. Where's the lie? Where's the lie? Okay.